We talk about the Handshake Cabinet, which in my estimation is due very soon. In fact, it's long overdue. I believe President Uhuru Kenyatta is about to make major changes to his cabinet. And there are reasons why he will do this. Top on the list of the reasons is to make that cabinet a really handshake cabinet. This cabinet will bring on board some people from Raila's side. The second reason why the president is going to reshuffle his cabinet and make changes is because of the prevailing corruption in the country. There is no way the president is going to convince Kenyans that he's serious about the fight against corruption if certain ministers remain in office, if certain principal secretaries remain in office. He's not going to convince Kenyans that he's serious in the fight about corruption. There is also need to reshuffle the cabinet to bring on board men and women who will help the president not just deal with the big four, but also bring to actualization and realization his dream of a good legacy. Some of the people who leave cabinet, I'm convinced they are not less than 10. Some of the people who leave cabinet will leave for various reasons, ranging from being colorless. You wouldn't know whether they are there or they are not there. They wouldn't convince you even if you met them that they are cabinet ministers. On the list, you'll find people like Eugene Wamalwa. Apart from trying to speak good English, they are basically colorless. People like Najib Balala, well-dressed, trying to speak well, but tourism is where it was. Simpler and more useless destinations progressively have been increasing tourists to the areas, while we are still rotating where we have been. They are colorless people. Petroleum, who would know Munyes is there? And there are many others I will mention along the line. There are others who are not just colorless, like Chelugui of water, but a lot that's going on in the water sector leaves a lot to be desired. Then there are those cabinet ministers who have to be shown the door because corruption resides in their ministries. Talk of energy, presided over by Ketel, the darling of many Kenyans, when he came up with the Ketel bill. Today is a pale shadow of himself. If you are looking for corruption, look no further than energy. All the billions that are being sunk into projects that might even be overtaken by events, trying to deal with coal, which is dirty energy, trying to come up with projects like the LAM project, which even if they were to succeed, by the time they succeed, the energy direction will have changed. People are moving into green energy. Green energy is becoming cheaper and more affordable by the day. And the technology that is coming up, as people like David Ndii and Jabal Singh have told us, may make this energy we are trying to produce almost irrelevant. Today in Germany, there's so much green energy that when there's sufficient sunshine, people are almost paid to use energy because there's excess energy. And that's where we are heading. And therefore, the Minister of Energy will need a much more serious person than Keter. Treasury is vacant. There is no minister in the Treasury. Henry Rotich with his Principal Secretary Thuge must be shown the door. Today, Henry Rotich is beginning to tax Kenyans. Tax them and tax the poor. Tax M-Pesa and other mobile money transfers that are actually used by the poor. Push the price of kerosene to be at par with diesel. Punish the poor. I want to tell Henry Rotich, sir, you are pushing Kenyans to the wall and you are inviting a revolution in this country. Treat carefully, but much more will be the advice to the president. Get rid of Henry Rotich from the Treasury. Let's have somebody who can face the president and tell him genuinely that borrowing has reached a point where we can borrow no more. Let's have a cabinet secretary who will come up with a budget that is reasonable, that thinks about the common man in this country, not a cabinet minister that pushes the price of kerosene so that we destroy our forests by using firewood and charcoal. There are many other ministers that we must get rid of in this cabinet. Even as we leave others for the president to decide, we must bring on board Mwangi Kiunjuri. The rot in the Ministry of Agriculture, and if we are talking and being serious about food security, the kind of shenanigans we saw with the maize at the National Cereals and Produce Board, there will be no excuse from Kiunjuri that he was new in the ministry. If I become Minister of Agriculture, the things I will do, I will move with speed, I will give notice to the cartels, I will understand what's going on in the ministry, I will advise the president about simple things like going to the North Rift and finding out from the farmer what are the things the man in Nandi, Ausiningishu, Trans Nzoia, what are the things the farmer there needs to be able to produce food for this country, to get money from his efforts, and to feed the country. And I will do those things. I will first of all shelve all the mega things that are used for corruption. So even Mwangi Kiunjuri, you must go back to Laikipia. You can look for governor position if you want, but the president has to show you the door. Matiang'i is a good man, one of the most hard-working ministers in this country. But surely his temperament and his way of doing things, his approach to things, he's too erratic to handle the sensitive Ministry of Internal Security. I want the minister to be transferred to Transport and Infrastructure, where he will remind Kenyans of Michuki, where I'm sure he will deal with all the mess on our roads and all the other issues within the transport sector. But the president should then bring somebody a little more sober to the Ministry of Interior. And therefore, as I conclude, I ask the president, as you do your reshuffle, as you make this reshuffle, do what Kenyans expect you to do. Send home immediately those ministers who have been shown to take part in corruption. People like Cecily Kariuki. She presided over the mess at the Youth Affairs. And now she is the Minister of Health, where there are greater issues. So deal with these ministers. I know there are many others. There are others who are colorless. And if for nothing else, get rid of them. Get Kenyans to see that you are serious in the fight about corruption by giving them the men and women who will deal with corruption, who will deal with theft in public space, men and women who will help you realize you are big four and ensure you of a legacy.